What's going on, YouTube? It's your boy Jared Bless coming to you guys with another video, man. Today, man, listen, we got the UFC 281 picks. So if you guys are excited for these picks, make sure you drop a like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell. For the first time on the UFC 280 picks, we did a video on picks. We went 7-5, not the best, but it is a positive record, guys. So we want to stay positive. We want to get better and better and better. That way, you know, that way I know we know, you know, we improving. We just want to improve. So, hey, look, we're going to get straight into today's video, man. Guys, listen. First fight of the night is going to be Nikolai Negumereanu versus Carlos Oberg. And honestly, guys, straight away, Carlos Oberg is definitely the better technical striker. It's just that Nikolai Negumereanu has a high pressure, a high pace. And I think that will be, you know, the deciding factor in this fight. Carlos Oberg is a lot more technical, likes to be a little bit more patient. He's not going to rush the action. Obviously, both guys are coming off great wins. Carlos Oberg had that great win against Tefan and Choi. He got the KO victory. And Nikolai Negumereanu is coming off of that victory over Ihor Pereira. And honestly, that fight was definitely, you know, tailor-made for Nikolai Negumereanu to win. He was an underdog for some reason, but it didn't make any sense. Anybody that jumped on that line got that pretty quickly because the level of competition that Ihor Pereira was facing was really little to none, and he was barely losing. So seeing Nikolai get that finish was inevitable, but his pace and pressure is what got him to finish. And for Carlos Oberg, with his finish against Tefan and Choi, it was pretty much more just technical striking and you know, being cool, calm, and collected. So yeah, if I had to lean towards somebody to win this fight, I think that Nikolai Negumereanu's pace and pressure is going to be too much, and Carlos Oberg has been finished before in the UFC. So that's how I feel like that fight's going to play out. I got Nikolai Negumereanu at the underdog at +110. Next up on the card, we got Montel Jackson versus Julio Arcee. Now this fight, I think this fight can be potentially, it can either, I feel like it's either going to be boring or it's either going to be a finish. But I'm not too confident in saying that. Like, that's just a gut feeling that I have. But Julio Arcee is coming off that great victory, unanimous decision over Daniel Santos. That was Daniel Santos' debut, but Julio Arcee was just a better technical striker in that fight. Daniel Santos was just pretty wild looking for a finish. And Montel Jackson is coming off of that unanimous decision victory over JP Buys. Now, stylistically for this match, I think that Julio Arcee is a better technical boxer, but Montel Jackson does a pretty good job of not getting hit while on the feet. His strikes absorbed per minute is only 1.34, so that means he's barely getting hit, and he's landing 3.42 strikes per minute. And also, he averages 4 takedowns a fight with a 78% takedown accuracy, but Julio Arcee does have a 94% takedown defense. So I see this fight being almost like a collision course. I think that obviously Montel Jackson is and will try to work into wrestling. This fight will play out depending on how well Julio Arcee can defend the takedowns. If Julio Arcee can stuff some takedowns and keep the fight standing on the feet, it'll probably be a split decision victory for either Julio Arcee or Montel Jackson, depending on how the judges are feeling. You guys never know with the judges. Maybe I don't really see too much of a finish happening in this fight. But if I had to lean towards somebody, I'm going to lean towards Montel Jackson simply because of how safe he is on the feet and because of how accurate he is with the takedowns and how many takedowns he averages per fight. So that's just my opinion, man. So we're going to go with the favorite in this fight, Montel Jackson, man. Let's get it. Next fight we got on the card is Mike Trizano versus Seung-Woo Choi. We're going to call him Seung-Woo Choi. I don't care if it's pronounced Swang or Woo. We're going to call him Seung-Woo Choi or Seung-Woo Choi. Let's call him that, Seung-Woo Choi. So we got Mike Trizano versus Seung-Woo Choi. And both guys are coming off back-to-back losses. Obviously, Mike Trizano is coming off of a TKO loss. And, you know, Seung-Woo Choi is coming off a simple loss, decision loss. You know, both guys are in a crazy position, back-to-back losses. But I'm going to lean towards Mike Trizano as the underdog in this fight. Maybe not the smartest pick. I'm not confident in this at all, guys. So I'll be honest about the picks. This pick I'm not too confident in. I have it written down right here that I'm not confident. So, you know, I think that this fight's going to result in either a knockout or maybe a decision. But I think I'm going to lean towards knockout. Obviously, Mike Trizano is the guy that's coming off of the knockout loss. But he does land a couple more shots on the feet than Seung-Woo Choi does, and he is slightly more defensive in terms of how well he can defend the strikes. Obviously, you know, he does absorb a little bit more than Seung-Woo Choi does, but in terms of the wrestling, Seung-Woo Choi doesn't have that at all. Mike Trizano doesn't really go to the wrestling too much at all either, but he is more accurate and he does have a better takedown defense. So if the fight for some reason starts to go towards a wrestling exchange, Mike Trizano does have the slight upper hand in that direction, and he's a bit more accurate on the feet. Also, he is from Ramsey, New Jersey, so it's not in New Jersey, but that New York crowd may play behind him a little bit, may root for him a little bit, and this fight it could be a good fight. These are two guys that are on a back-to-back losing streak, so they might be going out there trying to put it all on the line. So yeah, I would say Mike Trizano at plus 140. I'm gonna go with the underdog in this fight. Like I told you guys before, I'm not confident, so pick this fight right here at your own risk. Next up on the card, we got Karolina Kowalkiewicz versus Silvana Gomez Juarez. Now look, guys, honestly, I'm gonna just instantly say that my pick is gonna be Silvana Gomez Juarez. Karolina has been knocked out before. Obviously, it was by Jessica Andrade, but she just hasn't been the same fighter. She's lost a ton of fights. Her last 2 wins have come against Felice Herrig, and Felice Herrig is no longer even fighting. She did get the finish, but her last victory before that was a split decision. Obviously, she went on a losing streak. After her first win versus Felice Herrig, she lost to Jessica Andrade. She got knocked out. She lost a unanimous decision to Michelle Waterson Gomez, or Michelle Waterson. She lost another unanimous decision to Alexa Grasso, another unanimous decision to Zhou Wanan. She lost another unanimous decision, or she didn't even lose a unanimous decision. She got armbarred by Jessica Penne. So to me, I just feel that Gomez Juarez is just too dangerous. Her last 3 wins have come by knockout. Obviously, 2 of them being outside of the UFC, 1 being in the UFC. But guys, this is women's MMA. You can't think too deep into it. Obviously Karolina has been losing a lot more. She's less dangerous. Gomez, Juarez is more dangerous. I'm just going to lean with her. Am I confident? Slightly confident. But it's up to you guys. Do what you want to do. It's women's MMA. Don't blame me. Next up, we got Ottman Azatar versus Matt Frivola. Now, for those of you guys that do not know, Ottman Azatar is coming off of a lengthy 2-year suspension. He has some weird saga on Fight Island where he was delivering like a bag of something to a hotel room when a guy was cutting weight. He did something very weird. It was a whole big thing going on. He was really not even supposed to be coming back to the UFC. They were going to just drop him. But obviously, you guys can see he's 13-0. He's very talented. So they decided to give him another chance. And here he is. So he's going up against Matt Frivola. And honestly, guys, this fight's just not going to go well for Matt Frivola. Obviously, if he can implement the takedowns and get him there, get the fight to the ground, then it'll work. But as of now, through 2 UFC fights, Ottman Azatar does have 100% takedown defense, so he has not been taken down. Is it impossible for him to be taken down? No, but he's just shown, good takedown defense. The striking differential that Ottman Azatar has with the landing 8 strikes per minute and only getting, only absorbing 1 strike per minute, that means he's pretty much just out there blitzing guys. Obviously, he's coming off back-to-back KO wins inside of the UFC. So he has shown the ability to finish fights. The more fights you get in the UFC, the higher the level of the competition. But Matt Frivola has been finished twice in his career. 2 of his losses come, 2 out of 3 of his losses come by knockout. And Ottman Azatar has 10 knockouts in his career. So this is just a super dangerous fight for Matt Frivola. So I'm going to lean Ottman Azatar. I'm going to say I'm confident in that pick. But it's MMA, guys. You never know what could happen. But yeah, I'm going with Ottman Azatar in this pick. At the slight favorite. I don't know why he's not a bigger favorite, but hey, he's coming off from basically a 2-year length, a 2-year suspension. So anything can happen. But yeah, I'm going Ottman Azatar in this fight, guys. Next up, we got Andre Pachowski versus Wellington Turman. And this fight right away, guys, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go with Andre Pachowski to win this fight. He's been looking really, really good in his most recent fights. I watched this guy in the Ultimate Fighter, Volkanovski versus Ortega. And he always had the talent to, pretty much win. But, Brian Battle came out there and did his thing. And, Brian Battle's still a great fighter even now. He's coming off of a knockout victory. So that just goes to show that, Brian Battle isn't a bum. But Andre Pachowski has bounced back pretty well from that loss on the Ultimate Fighter. And he's pretty much been on a big win streak inside of the UFC. He's coming off of a crazy technical submission and a kind of choke over Nick Maximov. Obviously, at the time, Nick Maximov was undefeated, great grappler himself. So that was a big win for Andre Pachowski. Now he's going up against Wellington Turman. And Wellington Turman does have some BJJ on the ground. He is coming off of a good win versus Misha Serkinov. Misha Serkinov's not that great of a fighter. Nowadays, you know, he's had a couple of losses, but to be fair, he's good on the ground. And Wellington Turman did get that submission armbar. And then before that, he had a win over Sam Alvey, but that was a literal split decision. So just going off of that, this is the Andre Pachowski play all the way. Put him in your parlays and stuff like that. Nothing's a lock with MMA, guys. Remember that. Nothing is a lock. We've seen crazy things happen in MMA. Usman winning the entire fight, then getting caught by a head kick. Things happen, guys. So if you're gonna bet your money, just understand that you can very well lose it. That's just the way how betting works. So is Andre Pachowski all the way for this fight? Yes, he should be able to control the wrestling exchanges. He has a more raw striking power. He has 4 finishes by knockout, 4 finishes by submission. Wellington Turman's in his last 4 fights, 2 of them he was knocked out. So yeah, Andre Pachowski should definitely win this fight. And I'm just going to leave it at that, guys. It's up to you to make the next decision. Next up, guys, we got Aaron Blanchfield versus Molly McCann. And first things first, guys, I will say that this fight is 100% a trap. Do not bet on this fight. Do not even put this fight in a parlay. It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. Aaron Blanchfield is 9-1. She's an up-and-coming great flyweight fighter in the UFC, 23 years old. Molly McCann, we know who Molly Meatball McCann is, man. She's had some great wins recently on those cards out there in, I want to say, is it England or something like that, the O2. Her and Patty Bimblett, they're on some cards back-to-back together, and she had some great performances. Actually, back-to-back spinning back elbows. So, you know, it was crazy to see her do that. Spinning back elbows, punches, all of that. She had 2 very, very, very great victories like that. And her pressure and pace is just very, very high, guys. That's the thing with Molly Meatball McCann. Her pressure is high. And she's going up against Aaron Blanchfield, who, you know, she ended up getting the finish versus JJ Aldridge. But it was a pretty concerning fight. People thought she was going to just dominate it a little bit more. But, I mean, she got the victory in the second round. She has a victory over, over Miranda Maverick. So that's a good enough win. You know, Miranda Maverick is not the greatest fighter in the division, but she's pretty good. I think she's going to be in the top 10 in the future. So, yeah, guys, like I said, honestly, this fight's a trap. Obviously, Aaron Blanchfield, she averages 4 takedowns a fight. Very accurate with her takedowns. And Molly McCann's takedown defense is really not good at all. It's at a 46%. So I definitely do think that Aaron Blanchfield will get some takedowns, but it's just all, you know, it just all depends on how much pressure Molly McCann puts on right away. And if she could just get Aaron Blanchfield on the back foot, and guys, it's women's MMA. So it's like nothing's for certain, nothing's guaranteed. So like I said, I wouldn't bet on this fight if I were y'all. Obviously, Aaron Blanchfield, I'm picking her to win the fight, but I'm just not confident in it because I wouldn't be surprised if Molly McCann can just put on some pressure and get a finish or win the fight. Even though Aaron Blanchfield hasn't been finished before in her career, anything can happen. And right now, Molly McCann has shown that she has serious power in her hand. So, guys, bet on this fight at your own risk, especially when it's women's MMA. That's all I'm saying. Next up, guys, we got Ryan Spann versus Dominic Reyes. Now, Reyes is coming off of a back-to-back knockout losses versus 2 former champions. So, you know, all of Dominic Reyes' losses have come to champions. Jon Jones, the greatest MMA fighter of all time, was the first loss. Jan Blachowicz was the second loss, who was, you know, ended up being the champion. He defended his title versus Izzy, so obviously that Jan Blachowicz was no joke. And he got absolutely destroyed by Jerry Prochazka. This fight, to me, I want to say that it's going to result in a finish, but sometimes I feel like when these fights that just seem that they should end in a finish, they just always end up going to decision, or something stupid like that will happen. But yeah, Ryan Spann just hasn't really beat anybody of like a high level. He doesn't have any high level wins. And, you know, even when he's had the opportunity to fight somebody that's dangerous or that has been ranked up in the rankings, he's lost. When he fought Anthony Smith, he lost by rear naked choke. When he fought Johnny Walker, he lost by KOs to elbows and punches. So for me personally, I'm going to go with Dominic Reyes in this fight. I know he's coming off of back-to-back KO losses, but I think that the Jon Jones loss really devastated him, because when I watched that fight with him versus Jon Jones, I thought he won the fight, man. I'm not going to lie. I'm a Jon Jones fan, but when I was watching that fight February of 2020, I was like, wow, I just watched the greatest of all time just lose his championship belt. Like, I just watched him lose, but, you know, they gave the fight to Jon Jones, And I think that played with Dominic Reyes' psyche. After that, he made some bad decisions with his camp. He's kind of been all over the place trying to just find himself. I think that loss really threw his career off, and that's the unfortunate thing about MMA. The judges can really ruin people's careers, but I think that Dominic Reyes will be able to bounce back right here. This is a must win for him. It's make or break because he's lost to top level fighters in his last 3 fights, so we're not going to hold that too much against him. But if you go out there and you lose to Ryan Spann, get choked out, get finished, whatever the case may be, then that's not going to be a good look for you. Because Ryan Spann is very dangerous on the ground. He has about 12 submission victories out of his 20 wins, so he's very dangerous with that. He can lock in a guillotine choke, something of that sort. But yeah, I just feel like Dominic Reyes is going to be able to win this fight, maybe even by finish, by a knockout. Ryan Spann has been finished 3 times by KO, so yeah, it's definitely possible for him to be knocked out, especially by a guy like Dominic Reyes. So I'm gonna go with Reyes. Let's go on to the next fight. Then we have Brad Riddell versus Renato Moicano. And honestly, guys, this fight is going to be probably razor thin. I think it's probably going to be like a boring decision. Unless Brad Riddell does something pretty stupid, which, in his past 2 fights, he is coming off of a submission loss and a KO loss. Now, to be fair, he did lose to Rafael Fiziev by KO, spinning wheel kick. Very, very crazy knockout. But Rafael Fiziev is on his way to being a top 5 fighter. I think he should fight Justin Gaethje next for that top 5 spot. And then he ended up losing to the dark horse of the lightweight division in Jalen Turner, who was able to get the submission victory. So he's coming off of back-to-back finishing losses. Now he's going up against Renato Moicano. And, Renato Moicano took a fight versus RDA on very short notice. He got dominated, and it was also a 5-round fight, late notice fight. I'm not sure why they did that. Kind of weird. I think that was the co-main event on the Kobe versus Masvidal card. I watched that fight. And it was kind of weird that they made it a 5 rounds. I forgot why they did it, but Renato Moicano just didn't stand a chance to fight RDA on short notice. It just wasn't going to work out for him. And before the RDA fight, Renato Moicano had back-to-back submission victories, so he's obviously deadly on the ground. Brad Riddell is definitely the more technical striker on the feet, and Renato Moicano has been finished before. So I'm leaning Brad Riddell at the slight underdog in this fight. But at the same time, it can get scary because Renato Moicano has the ability to get the fight to the ground and finish it down there. Brad Riddell's takedown defense is a 62%, and Renato Moicano does average 1.7 takedowns per fight. So does Brad Riddell, but I just don't think it's going to be smart for Brad Riddell to try to take this fight to the ground. He should just stay on the feet, beat a more technical, better striker, and win a decision that way. Avoid the wrestling exchanges, avoid grappling exchanges, and I think Brad Riddell should be able to edge out this fight. So yeah, that's my prediction. It's on you guys if you want to, what I'm saying. Y'all can follow me or y'all can not follow me. You know what I'm saying? We trying to go undefeated on this fight card, and I've been making my picks, but it's MMA. Who knows? Next up, we got Claudio Pueles versus Dan Hooker, and look. I'm going to just say straight away, I'm going to go with Claudio Pueles. He should be the slight underdog. But honestly, guys, I just feel like he's just too dangerous. He's too dangerous for Dan Hooker. He can lock in a knee bar. Pretty much all of his recent wins have come by either unanimous decision or a knee bar. Dan Hooker has a pretty decent takedown defense, but Claudio Pueles can pull guard. He can jump on a leg. He can do weird things to get the fight down to the ground. He's younger. He's took less damage than Dan Hooker has taken. And to be fair, the past 4 opponents that Dan Hooker has lost to, former champion and, former interim champion in Dustin Poirier, former Bellator champion and title challenger Michael Chandler, current champion Islam Makhachev, and Arnold Allen, who's going to be pretty much competing for a title at some point in the future. He will be competing for a title. He's that good. So Dan Hooker hasn't lost to any bad fighters. These are all fighters that have either challenged for the title, have held the title in some sort, or going to challenge for the title. So him facing Claudio Pueles now, obviously, is one of the lower, competition of fighters he's faced. But Claudio Pueles is still very, very dangerous. Now on the feet, Claudio Pueles is slightly more accurate in terms of striking, but Dan Hooker is a better striker, to be fair. Claudio Pueles is obviously hit less. Dan Hooker is hit more. He's obviously on the feet more. So that's the difference in the fight. Pueles is not too accurate with his takedowns anyways, so it's not like he's going to be shooting double legs and stuff like that, but he does average nearly 3 takedowns a fight at 2.7. So, would I be shocked if Dan Hooker wins? No. but I just feel like Claudio Pueles is just dangerous with the submission game. Dan Hooker has been submitted before on the ground. He's not some type of wizard on the floor. So I just think the fight's not going to really go his way. And, yep, that's my pick for this fight, Claudio Pueles. Next up, we got the farewell fight for one of the legends in the game, one of the pioneers of the game, Frankie Edgar, man. We got Frankie Edgar, Frankie the Answer Edgar, fighting against Chris Gutierrez. Now, this is pretty obvious, man. Chris Gutierrez is going to win this fight, most likely by knockout. Frankie Edgar's chin is just gone, man. We're not going to overcomplicate this fight. Obviously, Frankie Edgar has that wrestling in his back pocket, but Chris Gutierrez has good takedown defense at a 73%. And, you know, his striking differential is good enough. You know, he has great defense on the feet, very accurate on the feet. He's younger. He's on a seven fight unbeaten streak. He does have a draw in there, so you can really say 6-fight win streak, but 7-fight unbeaten streak. And yeah, this fight's just not gonna go well for Frankie Edgar. His chin is just not the same anymore. He got front kicked by Marlon Vera. He got flying kneed by Corey Sandhagen. He got knocked out badly by Chan Sung Jung. And then in 2018, he got absolutely KO'd at that point, you know, for the first time in his career by Brian Ortega. So, I mean, guys, Frankie Edgar has a lot of octagon time. You can see right here 24 professional fights, or not even 24, 34 professional fights, and years of octagon experience. So it's not going to go well for him. The best thing that can go well for Frankie Edgar is he's going to obviously have the crowd behind him. So maybe if he can make something happen, the crowd will definitely get behind him, because I'm pretty sure everybody pretty much wants to see Frankie Edgar go out, you know, with a win. Chris Gutierrez has a bright future in the UFC, so he'll be able to lose to Frankie Edgar and bounce back. I mean, we saw what happened to Ricky Simone. He lost to why am I forgetting his name? Skateboarder, 40 years, Uriah Faber. He lost to Uriah Faber pretty handily, and he came back, and he's on a trajectory to, you know, get back into the top 5 pitchers soon, or get into the top 10, top 5 pitchers. So yeah, that's the only thing that can be going for Frankie Edgar. Maybe he gets a win. Everybody wants to see him win, and he can ride off into the sunset with a great win. But his chin is just not there anymore. And Chris Gutierrez definitely has knockout power. He's actually coming off of a knockout victory. So yeah, this fight just doesn't really, it's not gonna go well for Frankie. And that's just me being honest. So y'all do what y'all want to do. I would say that Chris Gutierrez is a safe parlay piece, but it's up to you guys. Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we got Dustin the Diamond Poirier versus Michael Iron Chandler. Now look, this fight, Dustin Poirier will win, but I will tell you why, other than the fact that he's my favorite fighter. I don't want to be biased. If he was going up against somebody that was really, really great, I would, you know, say that there's a chance or whatever. I'm not going to lie. When I looked at the fights, I pretty much thought he was going to win every fight. The Oliveira fight, the Khabib fight was the only fight where I was like, yo, this is like one of the better competition of fighters that Khabib has fought. So let's see how he actually does. And that didn't play out well for him. But I thought he really was going to win the Oliveira fight. But anyways, yeah, him versus Chandler, I think this fight is going to play out this way. If Michael Chandler doesn't try to go for takedowns right away and implement wrestling, he'll lose this fight for sure. Dustin Poirier is just too technical in terms of a brawling standpoint. He's very technical in the brawling, very good counter striker. So if Michael Chandler's just out there trying to look for a crazy knockout or trying to make some highlight reel thing happen, he's going to get caught very badly. You get dropped by Tony Ferguson at this point in Tony Ferguson's career, even though Tony looked the best he's ever looked in recent memory the past 2 years in that round 1 versus Michael Chandler. For you to get dropped by Tony at this point, it's kind of like, hey man, like, you're going to fight Poirier, who has more power than Tony, more accurate, more precise, more technical. It's not going to go well for you. So that's the only way that I can see Chandler having a chance to win this fight, is if he implements wrestling early. Even if at some point in the fight he decides to go to the wrestling and he starts to have success there, and he tries to, like, you know, get some ground control, try to hold Poirier down, try to do things like that, that's his best bet. But if we're talking about, you know, that fight being on the feet, everybody expecting this to be a fight of the year candidate, if that's what we're talking about, then Poirier all the way. But yeah, obviously, guys, I'm picking Poirier for this fight. You know, I really won't complain against somebody else picking Chandler, because I get it. Chandler is very dangerous, very explosive, and he has the ability to be able to implement in the wrestling. Like, Poirier's takedown defense is not anything crazy at a 64%. And, you know, I think Poirier has a better jiu-jitsu, but Chandler's just super powerful. And we'll see what happens, man. But I'm going to lean with Poirier in this fight. And this is the people's main event, guys. To be real, everybody wants to see this fight. This is the people's main event. This is what's exciting everybody. We wish it was 5 rounds, but the UFC didn't do it. I don't know why. You know, they have the power to make it 5 rounds. They should have. but they didn't. So whatever. On to the next. Dustin Poirier for the win by knockout. Next up, we got Zhang Weili versus Carla Esparza. And Carla Esparza is coming off of one of the worst title fights in UFC history. But I watched that fight. I don't blame that fully on Carla Esparza. She was trying to go get Rose, but Rose is not pretty much. She was running away the entire fight. It was probably some PTSD from the first fight they had where Rose got choked out. She didn't want the same thing to happen again. So, I mean, I understand people's frustration with Carla Esparza, being, fighting the way that she had fought. But, I mean, what did you want her to do? Rose is the better striker, so she can't sit there and try to stand on the feet and strike. She's going to try to chase her down and, get the takedowns. But Rose just was avoiding it. She knew that she had no chance to, be on the bottom and have, a chance at victory against Carla. So, hey, look. But let's talk about Carla versus Zhang Weili, right? Be careful with this fight, guys. And let me tell you why I tell you guys to be careful. Don't just think Zhang Weili is like some type of lock parlay and, oh, man, I'm going to pick her and she's going to win and da-da-da-da-da, this and that. Listen, Zhang Weili was held down for an entire round by Rose Namajunas. I think it was even the 5th round, right? Now, to be fair, I'll be honest. I thought that Zhang Weili won that fight versus Rose. That second fight versus Rose, I thought that Zhang Weili won the fight. But we all know how this goes when you leave it to the judges, man. The judges are, I don't want to use the R word, but the judges are tarded. I'm just going to say that. They're tarded. So they do what they do. But there's a chance that Carla Esparza can get the fight to the ground and control Zhang Weili. If Rose Namajunas has the ability to control Zhang Weili on the floor, so does Carla Esparza. But with that being said, my pick for the fight is going to be Zhang Weili. But look, man, listen, guys, I'll break it down for y'all, but that don't mean I'm going to sit here and I'm going to pick that person to win. I'm just breaking down the fight for you guys. So just don't be surprised at the outcome of the fight, I think Zhang Weili might try to just blitz her in the first round because Carla Esparza doesn't have good striking at all. She cannot stand on the feet with Zhang Weili. So it's going to be up to, how the first couple of takedown attempts goes for Carla Esparza. If Zhang Weili stuffs those first 3 takedown attempts, the fight is over for Carla. If Carla can even at least get one of her first 3 takedown attempts, all of a sudden, the fight will shift immediately right away. You'll see the odds change and all of that. Remember this breakdown. I want you guys to remember this. It's either Zhang Weili is going to come out in the first round and just absolutely knock out TKO blitz Carla, or Carla will try to get some takedowns, obviously, and if she can land one out of her first 3 takedowns, all of a sudden the fight's going to start to shift and change immediately. But I'm still going to lean towards Zhang Weili, but I'm not super locked like, oh my goodness, Zhang Weili is going to be a super lock for this fight. Like, no, I've seen her get controlled by Rose Namajunas on the ground. So Carla Esparza is a by far better wrestler. So if she tries to do that early on, it could be a bad night for Zhang Weili, but I'm going to lean towards her for the fight. So it's on you guys. Hey, like I said, it's women's MMA. Do it at your own risk. Last but not least, to end off the video, guys, make sure you guys drop a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. If you guys have made it this far in this video, you're a real one. I appreciate you. I really, really do. I'm not joking. I'm being dead serious. I appreciate you. Drop a like, comment, subscribe, all of that. Hit the notification, but I need you guys to do all of that. We're more than halfway to 100 subscribers, so let's get there. But look, Israel Adesanya, the last style bender, versus Alex Pereira. Now look, we all know the history between these two. Alex Pereira won their last 2 fights, obviously. First fight, he won. Second fight, he beat Izzy by finish. Now, Izzy was winning the second fight, but, Alex Pereira is also a great striker himself, has serious power. Izzy tried to, stick to one thing, try to stick to that right hand, relying on that. And, he got caught by Alex Pereira. But I wouldn't just say caught. I think that terminology is pretty much used to say that someone got lucky. I would just simply say that, Alex Pereira just did what he had to do to get the win. He got the finish. And now they're fighting in MMA. There's been different things being said between both of these parties, both of these camps. But quite honestly, it doesn't matter that they're not in kickboxing and this is MMA. Izzy has never shot for a takedown, and neither has Alex Pereira. So I don't really understand why would Izzy do it now. It probably would just show that he's pretty much not willing to stand on the feet with them if he tries to implement takedowns, especially since he has never ever done it in any MMA fights. If Izzy can do that, if he can decide to go for takedowns and actually land them and be successful with it in his first MMA fight, because he's never really done that before, that's gonna show how great he really is. I already think he's the greatest middleweight of all time. That's my personal opinion. I watched every single Israel Adesanya fight from his UFC debut versus Robert Wilkerson all the way to his last fight versus versus Jared Cannonier. So the way how I see this fight playing out is I think that Alex Pereira is going to bring the fight to Izzy. But I think Izzy's going to try to play this fight super safe. He knows the power. He understands it. There's a serious threat. But this fight could play out like Robert Whittaker versus Izzy 1. Now, am I saying that Alex Pereira is going to be that reckless with his striking and just blitzing in like how Robert Whittaker was doing? No, but I think Alex Pereira is going to put the pressure on a bit. And, they're going to be forced to strike with each other. They're going to be forced to strike. Alex Pereira, he's super accurate with his striking defense, with his striking accuracy. Their striking defense is pretty much the same. Pereira has hit a little bit more, and he lands a little bit more than Izzy. So, the fight's going to be interesting, but I'm going to lean towards Izzy. I think he has the potential to get a fight finish, but I think he's probably going to get that decision victory. Pereira is not as wild as Robert Whittaker. And that's pretty much why all of Izzy's recent opponents haven't fought like that, because they've seen what happens when you try to fight like Whittaker, when you try to be like Paulo Costa, you get finished. So all of a sudden you're stuck in a position where you have to find a methodical way to how to fight Izzy smart, but you're pretty much fighting on the outside the entire fight. So if you're fighting on the outside the entire fight, you can't really do anything to Izzy, and his takedown defense is good enough to where he's not really being taken down that much. Now, he did get a couple, he did give up a couple takedowns versus Robert Whittaker in the second fight, but we don't have to worry about that with Alex Pereira. So yeah, that's how the fight's going to go to me. I think Izzy's going to win that decision. If Alex Pereira if he gasses himself out and he gets to the deeper rounds and, he's tired or whatever, Izzy could get a finish that way. Or Alex Pereira can just simply land a knockout. Those are the three things that can possibly happen. Either Alex Pereira is going to win by knockout. He can't win by decision. I don't think so. Maybe, because he did beat Izzy the first fight in their first kickboxing fight. So maybe that's possible. But I think that's least likely. I think he'd probably win by knockout. If not that, I say Izzy would win by knockout in the later rounds. And the first most likely thing I think is going to happen, I think Izzy's just going to win by decision. So that's my guess for this fight, my prediction for this fight, my breakdown for this fight. I'm going to go with Izzy. You guys see my picks for this fight. We'll do a recap after UFC 281. We're going to see how well I did. Last card, UFC 280, I went 7-5. So we want to go perfect. We want to go undefeated. That's what we're going for. So let's see what happens, man. UFC 281 coming at y'all this Saturday. I will be watching it. You guys need to watch it too. But hey, in the meantime, drop a like, comment, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. And I'll see you guys in the next video, man. It's your boy, Jared Bless, and I'm out, y'all. Peace.